chatting with
Hey, how are
Diane.
you?
Hi, Diane.
I
I'm
am
doing so
good
well. How are you
today. It's a nice
doing?
sunny day here in Chicago, so that's always a good thing.
This really is. Well, for all those who are tuning in, we are chatting with Diane Phelan today, who plays Cinderella in Into the Woods. So if you have any questions for Diane, go ahead and put them in the comments. We will get to as many as possible. But we have so much. We had so many great questions come in. Um, And first, I want to start at your college
Yes.
education because you study at
Yeah.
Tisch. Is that, and I read in an interview that your father wanted you to double major
Yeah.
by adding business. And I think that's what a lot of art students can relate to is, feeling like they should add something that is more practical, quote unquote. Um, what would you tell students who
I
are
would say
emerging
just go for it.
artists?
To be honest, I think there's this reaction, and I know my reaction to it was like, no, I'm a real artist. I want to just give it my all. And I think there's a way of thinking that, oh, if I have this backup plan, it means I'm not all in. And I think another way to think of it is actually that you're adding to your arsenal of things that you know how to do and have under your belt. Because as an artist, to be honest, the times I wish I had a business degree, I think if there's anything else you also want to study, college is the time to do it. There's plenty of people I know who have gone and studied other things. Like my friend Allie Ewalt went to Yale and majored in psychology, I believe. So I think the more you can add to the things that take the time in college to do it, because a lot of the stuff you end up learning as a performer, as an artist, in theater anyways, you can pick up along the way. It's great to have a good foundation, but also, you can learn as you go.
Absolutely. Is there a specific reason that you chose to go to college for performing arts and acting together? Because I think some people might think that, oh, I might not necessarily need the higher education to pursue acting. What really led you to want to
Well, my
pursue a
father was
degree?
adamant about me pursuing a degree. And he was right, because I think, he has since passed, but he always talked about education. He was an educator himself, and he was a he studied sociology. Okay, that was his background. So like he really believed that making yourself the most educated as possible, which you can do through liberal arts education, so that you're well-rounded versus being just very specialized in one thing, is important to be able to contribute to society as a whole.
Well, I want to talk about your work outside of acting in the active world and all the incredible things that you do there. And first of all, with acting and just the Asian representation, because first of all, half the
Happy
Asian American
API
music there.
month.
What um so first, how does it feel to step into roles that didn't originate with Asian actresses? I just thought that you were one of the first
Yes.
Asian Marias in Sound of Music, which Asians, and then being in Cinderella now, and Cinderella, the traditional Cinderella, she's not Asian. So
It's
what does it feel
honestly,
like to step into these
I could
roles?
cry right now. Like, it's bonkers. Like I have done a lot of advocacy for out of the box casting and non-traditional casting in the past. And I kind of never thought that I would be able to benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? The work I was doing was to be like, okay, like, let's get other people in these roles. Let's stop seeing only all white casts of things, or like only, Caucasian folks on your Broadway posters. Like, everybody in this country deserves to be seen and heard, and there's no reason we can't tell these stories. And I never thought that I would have the opportunity to do it. So yeah, it's mind blowing, and I'm just still kind of still processing it all and just being like, okay. And on the other hand, it just feels so normal, because I feel like, oh, well, yeah, of course I should be playing these roles. I'm right for them. It feels right to be working on this as a human being, you know?
So the one thing that I really loved about your performance in Into the
Oh,
Woods,
thank
which I saw
you.
you last Tuesday, and you were phenomenal. And specifically
Mhm.
just about the character itself, as they didn't
No.
put a blonde wig on you, which I really did. They didn't make you someone who you weren't. Um, at any point during your creation process of building this character of Cinderella or even Maria in Sound of Music, did you feel extra pressured as specifically with Sound of Music
Oh,
being one of the first Asian women
absolutely.
to take on
Hands
this
down,
character?
without a doubt, especially for playing Maria in Sound of Music. I walked in there all the time into the theater and into the process with a lot of imposter syndrome, being like, people are going to want to see this. And I would just tell myself, be like, Diane, if you were your own friend, what would you say to yourself? You would say this was bonkers. Like, you should absolutely be playing this role, you know. And when I talked with our wig department, I said, look, it's just important for me that I still look Asian in this part. Like, so they were able to create this wig. I don't know if you saw the pictures, but it's a bob, but it has bangs, and it's my hair color. It's this dark color. And you know, somebody actually wrote in to the wig designer and was like, we love Diane. It's just her hair was so black. And I was like, you know, she's Katie McCoy, she told this to us in a thread, and I was like, that's racism. And everyone's like, that is racism. And you know, I think it's important to call these things out as they're happening, when they're happening, and not to you know, stir the pot or to be negative, but to say, hey, this is a thing that we didn't realize that a bias was happening. And even though it was spoken on a thread between cast members and company members who everybody was like, this is ridiculous, but being able to call it out that way allowed for my community to also say, oh yeah, you're right, we hadn't thought of it that way, that is a bias that this audience member had. Your hair is too black. Like, what does that mean? Like, that's the color of my hair. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, let's process that for a second.
Um, you know, theater just provides a wonderful teaching moment too for those people. But pivoting a little bit, you are the founder of Unapologetically Asian and Racism. And like, racism is a virus, and for all those who are watching, go look it up. It's a wonderful, incredible movement, both of them. Have you always
No,
embraced your Filipino
it was
heritage?
very confusing for me. Well, first of all, I was brought up in Taipei, so I thought I was Chinese for a while. And then I moved to the States when I was 9. And because I had, you know, I think this is partly being an immigrant child, where that generation is like, okay, yeah, be as American, whatever that means, right? Whatever that meant then for them, as you can, so that you can fit in, so you're not going to feel like you stick out, you know. And so I wasn't really taught to speak Tagalog. I grew up speaking Mandarin, but then the conversation was, oh, you're not speaking Mandarin with anybody. I didn't have anybody really to speak Mandarin with. But in terms of embracing my Filipino roots, that came with the theater community and friends in New York, where I literally made a pot of arroz caldo today, but it's, you know, learning, sharing recipes with friends and casts. You know, my first production of Miss Saigon, I think I did a paper mill a long time ago. We did potlucks, and I learned recipes from my friends, and really learned how to embrace my culture through other people who are doing the same. Yeah.
When you think of
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, what the landscape of representation looks like in your
I
most
mean,
ideal world?
I think what it would look like, because right now a lot of great stuff is happening, but it would include, I would say, more body positivity. I think it would include more folks from the disabled community. And please forgive me if I'm not using the correct language. I should know by now, and right now, because I'm on live, I'm blanking. But we want, you know, both people who are able-bodied and not able-bodied to be represented. There's already some amazing work being done, but right now they're outliers. I want to see more Asian representation. I want to see more Native American representation. I want to see proper Latinx representation. You know, like folks that, you know, still are kind of falling through the cracks in representation and opportunities on Broadway and beyond.
And that's one thing I really love about Into the Woods is that it's just such a diverse, beautiful cast. Um, what made you say yes from transferring from Broadway to
Well,
the
I just
road
wasn't
with
done
Into the
telling the
Woods?
story. You know, Broadway was pretty much the most deliriously joyful experience I have ever had performing. And you know, there's so much to excavate. And, you know, on Broadway, I'd covered 5 roles. So I just wanted more time with the characters. I wanted more time inhabiting them. I wanted more time with my cast. Um, we all love each other so much. It's really genuine. It's really, we all care for each other deeply. And it's a really joyful place to be. So I just wanted more time. I just wanted more time with them.
One thing that I really love about you sharing your journey with Into the Woods on social media is that how transparent you are with your following about your personal life and um, two parts being one, you know, sharing what is happening when you are out of the show, and also, you know, setting boundaries as an actor. I scrolled really deep into your Instagram, you know, like, hey, like, thank you all so much for coming to the stage door, but I'm going to be saving all that for the second show. I think it was like
Yeah.
a 2 show day. So 2 parts. One, why or um, do you feel like a sense of empowerment in a way that you can share so much of your personal life and be vulnerable with your digital community?
Yes.
And what makes you
You
want to do
know,
so?
I think it's just where I operate from. I think I'm just somebody that above all believes that communication is great, and it's healing actually for me to talk about things out loud um instead of not communicate them. So if there's something that I wish people knew, I would rather just talk about it than not talk about it. I'm like that in all my relationships, and you know, it's not for everybody, but the people who it's for, and that's what I care about, and it's because it's what I'm about. I like communication. I like transparency. I like sharing. I believe that it's important to, you know, if you know something can be solved, but just communicating with somebody, I would do that instead of not. But in terms of like social media, what's so great is I think social media, of course, can be a really intense place. And I think the more honesty and vulnerability we bring, if we bring ourselves, it can be a tool for healing and growth and transformation. I know that's been the case for me, where I've learned so much from people who I've followed and stumbled upon. And it's this incredible thing where we can connect to each other like in this way. I actually wrote to press, and I was like, wait, are we meeting at the stage door, or is this a live? I was so confused. Oh my gosh. This is my cousin saying hi. Yeah, you know, but like I'm sitting here, you're sitting there, and we're able to connect this way. And I think social media is really cool. And it has the possibility for so much, as long as we try to bring ourselves authentically. So I endeavor for that. Mm.
Someone has commented in Diane is really great at being honest and truthful and showing how kind our industry should be to actors, and specifically with kindness towards others. I love on your social media just how unapologetically you lift other people up, your fellow friends and fellow actors and people in the industry and other marginalized groups, and even the photographers who take your photo. How do you keep yourself grounded when in this career you're auditioning for things? It can get competitive with your friends
Yeah,
even.
it's hard.
How do you stay
It's hard,
grounded?
and I think I've made mistakes in the past. I think it's really hard to balance friendships relationships and your idea of lack and um, and feeling like, oh, I have to get this thing because it means this one thing to me. And like in my head, I've done really well. But I think, you know, I think in reality, I think it's really hard. So I've decided at like a point, and at this point it's been a while, but I decided that it's not competition with other people, it's competition with yourself. It's you know, the business has a way of creating lack in a certain way, and it can feel that way. And I think I stay grounded by leaning deeply into my own creative endeavors. I love creating things with my friends. I love using my art as activism. I love teaching. I love community. So I think that's what I realized quickly on, that needs to be where my focus is. And you know, I could be going up for a role with a friend, and I can honestly say to this day that if someone gets that role, I'm happy for them because that's their job. That is their job. It was never meant to be mine. You know what I'm saying? Like there are times where I was like, oh, well, there was undoubtedly, it was meant to be my job. Like that was my gig. And then there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that person is perfect for this. And I want to go see them because I'm a fan of theirs. You know, cultivating that mindset, I think, is so important as a performer in this business, and in the, especially as the levels get more difficult and you're trying to compete with other people for jobs. Like you don't think of it as competition. You think of it as, we're all going to try to do our best. And it really, it's really arbitrary sometimes, casting, because when I started directing and I started being behind the table, I started realizing like, well, that person was great, that person was great, we just cast that person because they went well with that person. And I like, it's arbitrary, it's not the best person. So it has nothing to do with your self-worth, how valuable you are, because you were already valuable. It has nothing to do with your talent, because everybody's talented, really. Everybody has that thing, and you can come in one day and be hitting it, and then another day you're not, but then it's the same material. You know, the room can hit differently. Everybody's, you know, separating your own self-worth from the material and just seeing yourself as an artist who's endeavoring to create art wherever you can has been like the magic bullet for me. I don't know why I had to say bullet. I could say magic ticket. That's probably a better way to say.
So I do have one last question to wrap.
Yes.
You have another minute. Okay. So in Into the Woods, Cinderella really goes on this magnificent journey. And when I saw it last Tuesday, I was reminded about how much Cinderella is actually on stage for really a marathon for you. And she goes through this wonderful emotional journey of discovering herself. What do you want folks to take away after seeing Into the Woods, and specifically seeing your character, Cinderella?
I want people to be above all touched. You know, I think it's hard to say, because I wouldn't say, you know, if someone gravitates towards Cinderella, then that's great. Because I think what's so great about this show is that you will take something on any given day from whatever, you're going to follow that character or this character, and you're going to be particularly touched by that thing, or you're going to laugh at that one thing. You know, I know I should be like rooting for Team Cinderella here, but I really think I'm more just rooting for, what's so great about the show is that you can come in and just experience a whole slice of life from wherever you want to see it from that day, and you're going to come back and see it again. It's going to be a different thing, you know. And then I know that's my experience of it, where I come in and I'm working on this one thing today, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm really feeling this, but then, you know, I mean, for me, it's No One Is Alone always gets me. That, I mean, if I have to say it, like, that's the thing that gets me. I look forward to doing it every day, and it's like worth taking the whole journey to say, okay, I'm going to land here. And then there's a catharsis in a complete, like, change of when you say, oh, I thought I thought what I wanted was one thing and it became this other thing.
It really is. It really is just a spectacular show, and a very moving one as well. And I mean, it is fun, and you laugh a lot, but you learn a lot too, which is so fun. But Diane, thank you so much for sharing your time and talent with us. For all those who are watching, come out, come see Diane, come see the rest of the Into the Woods company at the Nederlander Theater until May 7th only. This Sunday only. Get your tickets at .com. Keep up with Diane on social media, on Instagram, and also, of course, Unapologetically Asian and hashtag racism is a virus, and go learn more. And it's really wonderful stuff that Diane is doing, and we can't wait to see what comes next for you as well. Diane, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your time in Chicago.